Hi guys, today we're going to be doing lesson 3.7, absolute value equations, and tomorrow you're going to take care of the second half of the lesson, which is inequalities. Today we're just going to focus on the equations though. So our objective is that I can solve equations involving absolute value. Our essential understanding is that you can solve absolute value equations and inequalities by first isolating the absolute value expression, if necessary, and then writing an equivalent pair of linear equations or inequalities. So our key concept here, to solve an equation in the form the absolute value of A is equal to B, where A is some variable expression and B is greater than 0, we solve A is equal to B and A is equal to the opposite of B. So in practicality, the way we make this look is the absolute value of X is 3. So we write X equals 3. So we rewrite whatever's inside our bars. We drop the absolute value bars and set it equal to whatever is on the right-hand side of our equation. The other one that you set up is X is equal to the opposite of 3. So X is positive 3 or negative 3, because those are both 3 units away from 0. Okay? Now, letter B, we have to isolate the absolute value. As you can see, we have minus 5 there, so we need to get that to the other side of our equation before we can deal with the absolute values. So we have the absolute value of n is equal to, well, we added 5 to both sides, so absolute value of n is equal to 3. So again, we split that in half. We've got n equals 3 and n equals negative 3. Okay. Now moving on to letter C, they're getting a little more complicated. So again, we split our absolute value, so we have 2x minus 1 is equal to 9. So that's the positive solution. Then we have 2x minus 1 equals negative 9. So all I've done so far is rewrite what was inside the absolute value on 2 separate equations. And then I have the value that was there already is 9. And then we need to take the opposite of 9. So solve these the way we have all other equations. 2x equals 10, divide by 2, and x is equal to 5. Add 1 to both sides. 2x equals negative 8, divide by 2, and x is going to be equal to negative 4. So those are our 2 solutions for that equation. Okay. All right. Let's see, letter D. Now this is one where, again, we need to isolate or get the absolute value by itself. So we're going to divide both sides by negative 3. So we have the absolute value of 2w is equal to a positive 4. So we're going to split that into our 2 pieces. 2w equals 4. We just rewrite what we have without the absolute value bars. Second one, 2w equals negative 4. We take the opposite of what it's equal to. Divide everything by 2. And w is equal to a positive 2 or a negative 2. Okay, letter E, we're going to have to do multiple steps for. So the first thing, we need to get rid of this constant. So we're going to add 6 to both sides of the equation. So we have 3 times the absolute value of 5y minus 7 is equal to 30. Our absolute value isn't all by itself yet, so we divide both sides by 3. So we have the absolute value of 5y minus 7 equals 10. Now we split those into our 2 pieces. 5y minus 7 equals 10. 5y minus 7 equals negative 10. Add 7 to both sides. 5y is equal to 17. Add 7 to both sides. 5y is equal to negative 3. And now we need to divide by 5. Divide by 5. So our first one, we're going to have y is equal to 17/5. Our second one, y is equal to negative 3/5. And you can just leave those as fractions. You do not need to write them as decimals. All right, why don't you guys try the next couple, and we will go over the answers. So letter A, we have the absolute value isolated already, so we can just go ahead and split it into its two pieces. 2x minus 8 equals 6, and 2x minus 8 equals negative 6. Start by adding 8 to both sides. 2x is equal to 14. Divide by 2, and x equals 7. For the other one, add 8 to both sides. 2x is equal to positive 2. Divide both sides by 2. X is equal to 1. Okay. Letter B, we need to isolate it, so we need to get rid of that multiplied by 2. So we're going to divide by 2 on both sides. So we have the absolute value of 5c minus 8 is equal to 12. So now we split this into our two equations. 5c minus 8 equals 12, and 5c minus 8 equals negative 12. We start by adding 8 to both sides of the equation. So 5c is equal to 20. Divide by 5, and c is equal to 4. Same thing, add 8 to both sides. 5c is equal to negative 4. Divide by 5. C is equal to negative 4/5. Okay, letter C, we are going to add 5 to both sides of the equation. So we have the absolute value of 2p minus 3 is equal to 17. Split it into our two equations. 2p minus 3 equals 17. 2p minus 3 equals negative 17. Add 3 to both sides. 2p is equal to 20. Divide by 2. P is equal to 10. Okay, this side, add 3. 2p is equal to negative 14. Divide by 2. P is equal to negative 7. Okay. Moving on, problem number 2, we're going to deal with word problems involving absolute values. So we have letter A. Starting from 100 feet away, your friend skates towards you, then passes by. She skates at a constant speed of 20 feet per second. Her distance is modeled by the equation d is equal to 100 minus 20t. At what times is she 40 feet from you? So we want to know our distance is 40 feet, so we're going to plug that into our distance equation. So we have 40 is equal to the absolute value of 100 minus 20t. The absolute value is already isolated there, so I can break it into my two pieces. 40 is equal to 100 minus 20t. And negative 40 is equal to 100 minus 20t. Start off, we're going to subtract 100 from both sides. So we have negative 60 is equal to negative 20t. Do not forget that that negative sign comes down with the 20. The sign in front of a number is connected to it. Divide both sides by negative 20. And we have 3 seconds is equal to t. All right. Our negative 41, so we're going to subtract 100 from both sides. We have negative 140 is equal to negative 20t. Divide both sides by negative 20. And we get a positive 7 seconds is equal to t. So, from the moment she started skating, at 3 seconds, she's going to be 40 feet away from you. And at 7 seconds, she'll be 40 feet away from you. And in this case, the positive 40 would be 40 feet in front of you, and the negative 40 would be 40 feet behind you. Okay? So letter B, another friend's distance is modeled by the equation d is equal to 80 minus 5t. We want to know when is she going to be 60 feet away. So she's starting at 80 feet, she's moving at 5 feet per second. All right, so we're going to plug in that 60 feet into our distance equation. So we have 60 is equal to the absolute value of 80 minus 5t. And we break that into our two equations. 60 is equal to 80 minus 5t. And negative 60 is equal to 80 minus 5t. Subtract 80 from both sides. We're going to do that on both equations. And we've got negative 20 is equal to negative 5t. Over here, we've got negative 140 equals negative 5t. Divide everything by negative 5. And we find 20 divided by 5 is 4. And negative 40 divided by 5 is 28. So at 4 seconds and 28 seconds, she will be 60 feet away from you. All right, letter C. You see Ferris Bueller on a parade float 750 feet away. The parade was traveling at 158 feet per minute. The distance from you is modeled by the equation d is equal to 750 minus 158t. At what times is Ferris 200 feet away from you? All right, so we're going to plug in that distance of 200 feet into our distance equation. So we have 200 is equal to the absolute value of 750 minus 158t. Break that into our two equations. 200 is equal to 750 minus 158t. And negative 200 is equal to 750 minus 158t. All right. So we need to start by subtracting 750 from both sides. So negative 550 is equal to negative 158t. Divide both sides by negative 158. Negative divided by negative is positive, and it's going to be 3.48 minutes is equal to time, because we were told our rate was in feet per minute. Okay, so we're going to solve the second one, the negative one. So we're going to subtract 750 from both sides again. We have negative 950 is equal to negative 158t. Divide both sides by negative 158. Negative divided by negative is positive, 6.01 minutes. So those are our two answers. Okay? All right. Moving on to problem number 3. Solving an absolute value equation with no solution. So let's take a look at letter A. Our first step, we know we need to get our absolute value by itself. So we are going to add 5 to both sides. So the absolute value of 3x minus 4 is equal to negative 2. So here you go. That is no solution. And the reason for that is there, our distance away cannot be negative. Remember, the absolute value, we're finding the absolute value, this is not going to work. So anytime that you get it reduced so that you have your absolute value isolated on one side of your equation and a negative number isolated on the other, there is no solution to that equation. So here's another example. We subtract 6 from both sides. So we have 5 times the absolute value of 3x minus 1 is equal to negative 3. Divide both sides by 5. The absolute value of 3x minus 1 is equal to negative 3/5. Again, we cannot have a negative value. Our answer, our definition at the beginning told us that b has to be greater than 0. Negative 3/5 is not greater than 0, so this will be no solution. Now, you should not make this judgment whether or not there is a solution until you have isolated your absolute values. Do not do this until you've isolated the absolute values. Then you can judge whether or not there is a solution. Okay? So that is all of our notes for today. What I want you to do off to the side here is to write your level of understanding between 1 and 4 like we usually do. You don't need to worry about writing a summary today. Just write off to the side your level of understanding. Tomorrow we're going to pick up with the remainder of this packet, the inequalities, but that is all we have for today. Have a great night.